Welcome back to another FIFA 22 custom tactics video. Today we're going to be 4-1-2-1-2 second variant, so top 200 pro player custom tactics and instructions. These are a more attacking version to what I normally will show you. But let's get straight into it. So these are very updated, so post patch, literally just from very recently. So they're not old tactics, they are currently updated, like very new. I don't really know how to explain it better than that, but trust me, they are very good. So let's get straight into it so you can get using these. Defensive style, we are sticking with balance. I don't really like using a press in this formation. It tends to work better sort of presses. The formations I usually use presses with are sort of the 4-2-2, the 4-2-3-1 sometimes, and then sometimes some other formations, but not really many other formations than that. Apart from the 4-2-2 mainly, which is the best one for a press, I actually do tend to quite use balance. It drains less energy on your players and keeps them more in their default defensive position. Width we're using 35 for the same reasons as all the time, to bring that formation nice and narrow when defending, making it harder for the opposition to break you down. It's already narrow as it is, so bringing it in even narrower, especially bringing those fullbacks in, will make it harder for your opposition to get through. And it's not really like playing drop backs. Playing drop backs a bit scummy, sort of 5 at the back as well. Really hard for them to get through. And it's not so you're sitting back, letting them have all the possession. That's not really what I'm saying. It just makes it harder for them to get through the middle. But you will still play in a very high depth. We're counting that with 70 depth, which is quite a high depth. Obviously 70 and above depth, you do get an automatic offside trap if you didn't know already. And that is why we're counting that with the whip. So it doesn't mean we're sitting really far back, letting them all have the possession, playing quite scummy football, which you don't really want to play because it doesn't actually work at the end of the day anyway, especially at high levels. We're still playing a high line, trying to win that ball back quickly, so when we win that ball back quickly, we're higher up the pitch and all ready for an attack. If you've watched any of my 4-1-2-1-2 second in the past custom tactics, you'll notice I always use fast build up. Since 15.1, it has been so good. Some reason a few patches ago, it just hasn't been the same anymore, and it's really annoying because it works so well. It's pretty much the meta, and it was just unbelievably good. But now balance actually seems to be better, because we're using direct passing on chance creation, which is probably the meta this year. It works so well to get the ball to your attackers quickly, and there's no wingers in this formation, so you can get it straight to those strikers. It works really well. Width, we're going to be keeping it nice and default using 50 width. I tend to use 50 width in this formation because you don't have any wingers to push out wide. You don't need to push them out wide, and you want to try and keep the formation as much as you can. You can see in the midfield here, you've got your CDM, your 2 centre mids, and your cam, which creates the diamond shape. You can quite clearly see in the middle. That is a really important shape to hold. If you push that out too wide, it's going to spread out and just ruin the entire shape. You want that to be nice and tight, so you can pass it around there, and then try and get those direct passes to your strikers nice and easily. Plays in box on 5 or 6, doesn't really matter hugely. I tend to use more sort of high ones, so I tend to use 6 to push more players forward, but it's sort of up to you. It doesn't really make a huge difference anyway. And then corners and free kicks, I'll just have them free and free. So now for the player instructions, both your strikers, I recommend stay central, so they stay in the centre of the pitch in line with the opposition goal, not drifting that wide, so they're in the same place. Getting behind, making forward runs behind the opposition defenders, and stay forward, so they are not coming back when defending, they're staying up there, so they're always going to be up there when you need them. For Cam, I recommend on this formation with stay forward, sitting just behind the strikers, so he's not dropping back as well. He's always going to be up there, sort of like a support man for the 2 strikers is sort of how I play with him in the game. And then get into the box across to be overloading that box. I ensure he's always overloading that box and not sometimes, because you don't want him to be staying on the edge. If you use balance cross and runs, sometimes he'll stay on the edge, and you really don't want that with your Cam. You really want him to be pushing forward into the box at all times when you're attacking. For the 2 centre mids, for these, make sure you have cover centre, and that's important, so they are not drifting that wide. If they drift out wide, the shape of the formation is going to completely go, and it's going to ruin the narrowness you have on the tactics already when defending. So you do want cover centre, and then for the rest, I'd personally just leave default. If you want to stay on the edge of box across, you can, to stop them going into the opposition box. I do that sometimes, but I don't think it's too necessary. I usually just leave it default with cover centre. I can't speak at all today, God. Right, for the CDM, cut passing lane to stop the opposition making through balls through to their strikers, which is pretty much what we're doing here. So with our cam and our midfield players, we're making through balls to our strikers. Obviously, you don't want the opposition doing that because it works well, which is why we're doing it. So you want the cut passing lanes to stop that happening as easily. And then you want cover centre, so he's sitting in the centre, and stay back while attacking to ensure he's not going forward, and he's going to be sitting just above the defence at all times, not pushing forward with your other midfielders. For your 2 centre-backs, leave default like always. Full-backs on this formation, I recommend leaving them balanced with overlap. I usually use stay back while attacking on my full-backs if you've got wide players, but there's no wide players this time, so we're going to be using overlaps. They're making overlapping runs on the outside. Obviously, there's no winger to making overlapping runs around the outside, but it's just to ensure they're always on the outside and never going to be doing some weird inverted thing. But it's just sort of extra, just in case you need it. And lastly, for your goalkeeper, comes to crosses, so your keeper's coming off his line more to defend corners and crosses, reaching out for the ball and trying to get that ball, and sweeper keeper for the same reasons, being more aggressive, coming outside his box and challenging the opponent for loose balls and through balls. That is pretty much everything for today's video. That is the 4-1-2-1-2 So second variant custom tactics and instructions, they are pro player like I've said already, and they do work really well. They're more attacking than I usually show. I usually show this formation quite balanced, but these are more attacking custom tactics and instructions, but they do work well, guys, trust me. So that is everything for today's video. If you've got any questions, let me know in the comments. Feel free to ask and I'll reply as quickly as possible. Anyway, thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Goodbye.